My biggest lesson learned is to always be grateful and humble for where you're at. You can always rise above to get to the next stepping stone in the journey of your career. But taking that extra time, spend that extra 5 minutes to make sure that your customer is happy, make sure the work got done to the best of your ability, and even that the customer or client is happy because reputation is everything.
This is Facility Rockstars, the podcast that celebrates the unsung heroes of our daily lives, facility professionals. I'm your host, Jay Culbert. Join me as we honor these great leaders, sharing stories, insights, and expertise that empower us all to learn and grow together. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Welcome back to Facility Rockstars. I'm your host, Jay Culbert, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to today's guest. He is a seasoned operating engineer dedicated to the field of facility management. He has specialized expertise in HVAC systems, maintenance management, and energy conservation. He has successfully led numerous facility management initiatives, consistently improving operational performance and resolving complex issues with innovative solutions. He is the hard services manager at JLL Bristol Myers Squibb. Anthony Burke, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jay. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled that you could take the time and invest the time with us. So, we're in the middle of the Olympics, right? This big worldwide sporting competition, event, show, all of that. And the reason I say that is we're going to later in the show with you, Anthony, as we've previously discussed, I want to bridge the training that Olympians have to do over the years, the mental training, the physical training, the preparedness, all of that, to what you've done in your career to prepare and get to where you are today through joining the Navy and all of the education. So look forward to discussing that a little bit later in the show with you. Is that cool?
Awesome.
All right, man.
Look forward to it.
So my question for you to start us off is, you've got a lot of vast experience in facilities and beyond. So what's been your biggest lesson learned throughout this journey, Anthony?
I would say my biggest lesson learned is to always be grateful and humble for where you're at. You can always rise above to get to the next stepping stone in the journey of your career. But taking that extra time, spend that extra 5 minutes to make sure that your customer is happy, make sure the work got done to the best of your ability, and even that the customer or client is happy because reputation is everything. Reputation will follow you. It will help you get into doors. It will carve paths for you later in life.
Got it. I would completely and wholeheartedly agree with you. You just said a few things that I just wanted to touch on. So best practices, I think you said verify. Could you expand on that a little bit?
You always want to check up on the guys that are doing the work. Work order comes in, you always want to walk down the job. You want to make sure that the job is getting done correctly, and you want to provide a follow-up. Always keep in contact with the customer. Just having that dialogue back and forth puts everything at ease. One of the big problems is the customer not knowing what's going on with the job, not having any input from the vendor, and leads to a lot of questions and a lot of uncertainties. So just having that peace of mind right there speaks volumes and it gives you so much headway.
Are you referring to, again, I agree, like checking in with the person who put in a work order, or is it yes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go down, speak to the customer, see if he's happy with the job.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the big things. If you can go down and just talk to the customer, find out, are they happy with the job that was done? And if they're not happy, find out what you can do to make them happy. What can you do to rectify that situation? That key piece right there is something that I think is lacking.
I think it's lacking across the board, whether it's facilities or other disciplines or trades or any other business, because sometimes we're moving so fast. that, yeah, we don't take the time. I love what you said. I love just the simple concept of checking in. So how do you and your team, or how have you over the years, ensured that you actually do slow down and take that time? Do you calendarize it? How would you do that?
We do it every morning through meetings. We see the work orders that are coming in, assign the work orders out to the technicians. At the end of the day, we follow up with the leads. Did the work get done? Okay, it got done. Did the work order get closed? If it didn't get done, what was the reason? Is it materials? Is it still waiting scheduling? Can we get in there with the researcher? And then there's also the follow-up part. If the work was done, let's go down and check it out. Did the work get completed? Is the area clean and neat? Did you follow up with the requester? Did anybody talk to the requester? Is the requester happy with the work that was complete? Those are key components to making the customer happy across the board.
So let's run a couple scenarios then. It's always excellent when the requester is happy. Like, what happens when they're not? What I mean is, what happens with schedule? Does it push it out? And is that a domino effect? Or can you give us a scenario where it wasn't quite right, and how you and your team handled it?
Well, one of the things is when you have to order material, things get
Mhm.
back ordered, things arrive late. Uh, keeping in contact with the requester and letting them know that they're not being left to the wayside. Um, if the job didn't get done right, then we make it a priority. Rectify the issue, complete the work order, and still keep in communication with the requester
Excellent. Excellent. So it's a daily discipline,
every day. Every
right?
day. It's all about work orders.
Good for you. I like that you use the word humble, like be humble, be respectful, and yeah, it's such an important aspect of business. Let's touch on another. We've got a series of questions here, so I'll keep us moving, Anthony. The next one's regarding technology. So technology is always changing, not just in facilities or buildings, but in everything we do, our phones, everything. So how do you and your team stay ahead of that technology? And then, we can talk about some best practices with that.
But one of the things that I try to do is I try to continue to educate myself. The news magazine, um, YouTube to see what new equipment is coming out that they have on the ASHRAE. Um, there's all kinds of learning opportunities that are available online. And then I try to share this information with the technicians. And that poses another thing too with the changing of the workforce. You have the baby boomers retiring. Not a lot of people are getting in the field, and the ones that are getting into the field in all the trades, a lot of them are green. So it could also come down to skilled labor. What we have that same situation going on where I work now. And one of the key things that we're doing is in-house training.
Hmm.
Get the guys together. This is the fan coil unit. Go through the different components, bone them up and get them up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can sit them in a classroom for hours at a time, but there's no substitute for hands-on learning.
Good for you. This is a very common theme that comes up in our show and beyond. One of our guests did also talk about just-in-time training, and just there's so many different ways, right, to do this. So if you could elaborate more on this, this is something I believe the audience and myself would like to hear a bit more about, Anthony.
Absolutely. So what we're doing at our facility is taking an hour or two a week, picking a certain system and bringing the techs together and going through the system. Let's do a PM. Let's do a maintenance so they can see how it's done. And then after that, depending on, we'll go back to the conference room. We'll review what we did, break out another training. Okay, now we're going to get into the controls portion. We'll get somebody else on site, whether we have to have our vendor come in or we have our BAS engineer. He can go and run through the training on the control side. So every week it's broken up and we'll do a different training. Like this week coming up, we're going to be doing our pH adjustment skid. We're going to do a good overview,
Hmm?
run through a PM, then go back to one training room and quiz the guys. What
That's
have you learned? And that way you can actually gauge, because you're always going to have those one or two guys that aren't paying attention. And it's also good to gauge where the techs are.
and how do you do that?
Well, basically, you can see where they're lacking. Do they understand? Do they comprehend? Okay, we need to bone up on this system more. So
Mhm,
let's have another training. Let's go through it. Do we
mhm.
have to take the technician aside and do a one-on-one with them? I mean, unfortunately, in this day and age, I feel like this is something that we're going to have to do to get the workforce that we want.
Mhm. And who would they call, um, if they're in the moment in front of a boiler or some other piece of mechanical equipment and they don't remember what the training was about or how they would resolve that situation? What do they do?
They can call myself, they can call the lead. We're all available 24/7.
Great. So they always have access to someone who's
Absolutely.
an
I mean,
expert in.
being a service tech, I can't tell you how many times I'm out in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You
Mm,
get there and oh my God, here's a piece of equipment that I've never worked on before. Well, who do I call?
mhm,
9 times out of 10, you're calling your service supervisor. Hey, I got a problem here. That's if he picks up the phone.
mm.
So I really understand it with these technicians. One of the worst things is just not knowing. And if we can get their levels up to the point where they feel confident to actually dive into the equipment,
Mhm.
that's half the problem right there.
Building their confidence.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. That's excellent, Anthony. That's excellent. So, full-time accessibility to someone who's going to help solve the problem, even if they're not on site.
All of us at BMS are like that. We all came up through the trades.
So, what are some key considerations or best practices for facility professionals to keep in mind when you're planning? I'm shifting over to like projects, not reactionary PM, but projects. Like, what are things to keep in mind and best practices when you have upcoming projects? How do you execute those? What considerations do you have? What could you share?
With upcoming projects, anything that would have to do with refrigeration, I would definitely make sure that you're going to the new refrigerants. With the phase out of 410A within the next decade, we're going to be in the same rut as equipment with 22. So whether or not you can actually retrofit your current existing equipment, or do you have to change it out? I would recommend that you start budgeting now and look into whether or not you have to replace that equipment. Do you need to schedule a shutdown to have any change outs and retrofits done? ODP refrigerants are coming in and they're going to be here to stay.
And you said, did you already say, what is it, 410A? That's the one being phased out?
410A. Yep.
Yeah. You're in a very new building in a beautiful locations, right? Right down in
Yep.
what is it, Charlestown or Cambridge? It's Cambridge, right?
Cambridge.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and your building's how many years old now?
Uh, Building is just over a year old and we're still working out the bugs.
Hmm.
A lot of the equipment that they put in through design engineering, this was done a couple of years ago. And then as they put the equipment in, everything that was slated for 410A to service critical areas or vivarium
Hmm.
in the next decade, 410A is gone.
Hmm.
So you have a leak on a system, it's going to be quite a few dollars. It's going to be very expensive to fix that leak and recharge the system.
So fair to say, most listeners would be faced with this right now, if not
Absolutely.
all. Okay, I gotcha. Now you just touched on two words, design engineering. Is there anything more to expand on that?
With that design engineering, I would say it would make more sense to actually work closely with the people that are going to be servicing the equipment and get their knowledge, because things always look good on paper, but the actual application in the field sometimes doesn't work to the advantage.
Theory versus real world.
Yep.
Yeah. We talking about it in construction quite a bit. What an architect will draw and see may not actually be executable to the degree that they think it might be. Nothing against the architects. It's simply putting the two together properly. That's all.
No, absolutely. I mean, case in point, we have some labs right now that can't maintain temperature because the amount of heat that the vacuum pumps throw off in the space. And due to design, it's not removing the heat. So we're trying to make do with what we have, and we have another project in for that. I don't want to say it was a miss, but obviously it was in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the heat loads are off in the placement of the actual ductwork for the exhaust because it's not removing heat from the room. So it's one of those things where if you just go back and do it over again, but now we have to look at supplemental cooling for the space. Can we add more to the VRF system, which is maxed out? And then the challenge is there,
Mm-hmm.
where the VRF is located, just removal of that system. By shutting that water cooled condensing unit down, now you're actually taking out an area of the labs, and that's critical cooling. So that's going to be a challenge in itself just to do the shutdown
Sure.
and coordinate with the researchers in the lab to stop their experiments. That's just an example.
No, I think it's a great example because shutdown is a very common word and a very common occurrence in our world. So, how do you, specifically in your building and your team, who do you have to coordinate with? You just mentioned one group, but who has to be in sync with each other to make a successful shutdown happen?
Oh, you have to coordinate with the researchers in the lab first to find out when you can do the shutdown. If they
Hmm.
have experiments and ongoing experiments, it could be months out before you can actually do the shutdown. Then once you get the go ahead for that team, then you have to go through facilities, any projects people, vendors, get everybody coordinated and synced up. Notifications have to be sent out. It's an undertaking,
Hmm.
and each one has its own challenges. There could be pushback from the researchers. No, we can't do this at this time. It's going to have to be rescheduled. Then everybody's back to the drawing board. I mean, these are things that just happen day to day.
Sure. Who decides if, say, the researchers in the science department says no, they don't want to shut down? Like, when is it? Who makes that decision? No, it's critical that we do so. We're on the precipice, or we must do this.
Well, then that'll go back to the leads for the
Hmm.
research department, and then we can coordinate from there.
Excellent. Something we did you touched on the new workforce coming in and training as being very, very important. How about getting people in general? Just you said the workforce is not as abundant as it was. So can we touch on onboarding, hiring,
It's it's difficult getting qualified people.
and are there certain things that you've done or seen as successful to get ahead of or overcome those challenges? What makes it what makes it maybe attractive to come work for you in your group?
Well, I can tell to the season's HVAC techs that you only have one place to go to when you're on call. You don't have to worry about 10 others. It's like a family here, and we treat it as such. We try to keep things above board and a nice, friendly environment. And we have a bunch of great people. Uh, I know these guys going back 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
Most of us are all from Connecticut, from the old Wallingford site. So, I mean, we really have a good crew of people. Uh, Education and training, we're always willing to help the guys out with whatever they want to go and do. That in itself is not something that a lot of companies are able to do.
Hmm. I think it's fantastic.
As far as getting guys in, we offer them bonuses depending on the role. There's also advancement. JLL, you can advance with JLL. When I hopped over to JLL, I was a utility plant operator, and now here I am a facility manager. So it definitely speaks volumes.
I'd say everything you just laid out is is all good. And I heard, well, kind of culture. Like you have a really good team, right? You said you have a great team. People like going to work. That's great, man. And I forgot that you had gone from Connecticut. So did they take your whole group from Connecticut when they built this building?
They started bringing people up a few at a time. At that time, I had left JLL and Bristol Myers, and I went back to my old company, New England Mechanical,
Mhm.
and I worked there for 2.5 years, and I got poached again and came back up to Cambridge with JLL and Bristol Myers Squibb.
Fantastic.
It was a great move. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell. You've got a good thing going here. So you've taught us a ton. We've run through a lot of different topics and questions. Thank you for running through everything with us and teaching us. And now I want to kind of flip it back to you, and I'm sure the listeners, including myself, would like to learn a bit more about you, Anthony. And I want to just go back and reference the Olympics again and how all of that training throughout the years is what gets them to that level of performance. And I was intrigued by your experience, and if you could just kind of walk us through,
Yep.
because you did a lot of training too.
I graduated in high school, 1996. Uh, Decided that I didn't want to do the whole college thing and I wanted to see the world and signed up in the Navy. In August of that year, I was out. I was heading to NTC Great Lakes. Went through that training, and my first duty station was the USS LaSalle in Gaeta, Italy, and been on a few tours with them. Uh, was dry dock in Toulon, France, and they had the flight deck fire party school there. So I did that
What
training.
is a flight deck fire party school? Can you tell us a little about that?
Flight deck fire party school is a lot of fun. Um, they teach you all about fighting fires on the flight deck in the event of a helo crash. Got to put on a hot suit, carry a dummy out of a burning helo, uh, learning how to fight fires on the flight deck. And there was this one time we were doing drills, and the instructor was literally taking cans of JP5 fuel oil and dumping them right onto the tarmac. And just by dumping the fuel was catching on fire, and you had to fight the fires at different angles and having two teams move in. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work too.
Wow.
But yeah, it was an amazing experience.
So when you look at it, it sounds incredible, and thank you for your service in the Navy, by the way. How do you see that translating to where you are today and that training and that, did that help you prepare to be the hard services manager and amongst other positions you're in?
Most definitely. Discipline. Definitely have to accredit discipline for that.
Mhm.
Being able to take one piece at a time and just focus on one thing and work your way up, and then you complete the whole job. You have to look at it as you have to be disciplined in your life. If you have any plans or goals to get somewhere in the future, you have to be disciplined to, okay, you have to do the training, work your way up. Nothing's going to happen overnight. You have to work at it and you have to get to those doors and open those doors for yourself.
Well
You really
done.
do.
Yep. Well done and well said. All right, so now we're gonna have a little bit of fun with the question, Anthony, right? I'm gonna ask you, okay,
Okay.
well, let's roll back 15 years. You could even roll back 20. Let's roll back 15 years. What advice would today's Anthony give Anthony of 15 years ago? What would you say to yourself?
I would say to myself, just stick with what you're doing. You're going to make out just fine. The old me of 15 years ago, service van, driving back and forth, one call after another, wondering, is this going to be the rest of my life doing this? I mean, it's great being out on the road working, and it's especially you get a nice day. There's a part of me that still misses that, Jay.
Yeah.
You get a wonderful day outside. It's like I want to be up on top on the roof, just doing exhaust fans, enjoying the day. There's a big part of me that misses that. But I got to tell you, now when it's freezing cold outside, I'm loving it. In an
You love
office
the
space
indoors.
or in a
Yep.
lab, yeah,
Sure.
that I don't miss. 20 degrees outside, you're doing a bearing change out on a motor. No, no, I'm too old for that now.
Great stuff, man. I see guitars behind you. What are we looking at? I don't mean to dig into your hobbies too much, but I need to know what that thing is there.
Okay, that is an ESP MH7, 7 string, and that is my Enya travel acoustic. It's all carbon fiber. Nice
Ooh,
little guitar.
nice. Lightweight, strong.
Yep. And then the other ones that are not in the field of view is my NJ Warlock and my Epiphone Les Paul.
We've got nice arsenal. I love it. What kind of music? What do we prefer?
Everything from blues to heavy metal.
Nice range.
I've got a wide range. I'm a sucker for the blues, though. I love it.
Yeah, me too. So this is awesome discussion with you, Anthony. I mean, we touched on many things. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you or reach out?
If they want to get in touch with me, they can hit me up on my email address at tony.burke@dhtconsulting.com. And that's also my email address. I started my own business with a few coworkers of mine, and we're just coming out the gate. A lot of those things that I've talked about before. Here's my shirt. If you can see it.
Nice. Hey, let
But
show the logo one more time. Let's get this thing on there. DHT Consulting. We don't have to go yet. You want to say a little more about this business venture?
Absolutely. A few friends of mine, we got together, talked about the same things that you and I have talked about, and we basically said we can do it better. And we're just out the gates, just started up, trying to get our feet wet right now. It's been an awesome experience. It really has.
That's awesome, man. That's entrepreneurial. Like, so when you say right out of the gate, is it like this month, last quarter? How new is this?
We were official as of May, so we're getting everything started up and in place.
Very good. Very good.
Focusing right now on consulting
Mm-hmm.
and facility condition assessments.
Mm-hmm.
But as things come, we're hoping to take on more. And the goal is to be a full service facility management company.
Congratulations. Love the
Yeah.
ambition. We left that big
Yeah.
nugget right till the end. Like, boom, mic drop. Here's the logo. Here's how you get me. And this is what I'm doing. I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Anthony.
That's awesome. It's been great.
Agreed. And thank you very much to our audience. If you learned something today or you laughed, tell someone about the show. Thank you again, Anthony. It's been another exciting episode of Facility Rockstars, and we'll see everyone next time.
It's a wrap. Another episode of Facility Rockstars is in the books. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Colutus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Until next time, facilitate and rock on.